Skyscraper Television News, The Corning Cover-Up. Complete final report. Citizen advocate exposes years of official malice and systemic corruption. Bob Lexington, reporting for Skyscraper Television News. A citizen advocate with deep family ties to Corning has documented a nearly decade-long campaign of official malice and systemic corruption. The entire ordeal began in February 2025, when a bus driver negligently moved the bus before the advocate was seated, causing him to break both elbows. When the advocate sought legal redress against the bus company, he faced immediate, aggressive retaliation from local officials. Part 1. Assault on a vulnerable citizen, April 2, 2025. The advocate, who is handicapped and still recovering from the severe injury caused by the bus company, broken elbows, endured a profound escalation of hostility on April 2nd. Malicious assault. At the transportation center, a contracted employee displayed open contempt for the advocate. When he attempted to comply by exiting, the employee maliciously slammed the door hard against his already broken arm, inflicting immediate, searing pain and causing his eyes to well up with tears. Police coercion. Police cruisers arrived instantly, with the lead officer driving illegally and threatening an illegal arrest for obstruction, a tactic designed to coerce compliance from the disabled and injured man. Top-level intimidation. The advocate immediately sought justice at City Hall. His demand for dignity, a core principle tied to the civil rights movement, was met not by an investigation, but by hostile confrontation. Chief of Police Mackenzie Spaulding and another officer personally recorded him, attempting to use the weight of their authority to intimidate him into silence. Part 2. The 8-year campaign of persecution, 2015 to 2023. The April 2nd assault was merely the latest step in a sustained, coordinated campaign of persecution engineered by city officials. Official obstruction and violence. The advocate's efforts to secure employment were blocked by former police chief Jeff Spaulding. Furthermore, the police system twisted minor complaints into menacing charges. The escalation included a stalker chasing him with a machete, requiring a court order of protection. This dangerous harassment culminated in malicious vandalism, including having his tire stabbed on Christmas Eve 2018. The ultimate legal weapon. The climax of the conspiracy came in 2017. The advocate was falsely arrested, publicly humiliated across the street from his own residence, and jailed. The city then manipulated the legal process, waiting 4 agonizing months to finalize the indictment, which resulted in the traumatic loss of his beloved dog. The shameful sentence. The advocate was sentenced to 5 years of felony probation, a period of relentless financial control. He was stripped of his dignity by being forced to remit money from his SSI disability payments, which was then paid directly to the Department of Social Services for Steuben County for past food stamp use. An act of institutional theft that forced him to pay twice for benefits he had already earned. Profound familial destruction. This campaign cost him his second marriage and, most tragically, his father cut ties due to the public lies. The trauma was compounded by the failure to be informed of his mother being on her deathbed in January 2020. Part 3. The cover-up and final demands. The lack of follow-up on the April 2nd assault confirms the corruption goes to the very top. Contempt and retaliation. City Manager Mark L. Reichman showed the advocate open contempt after the assault, and former Mayor Thomas Reed, who was later exposed for a public scandal and shamefully retired from politics, refused to help him. Malicious obstruction and censorship. The search for body camera evidence has been met with malicious obstruction. A FOIL request filed with the county was rejected and returned, directing the advocate to the Corning Police Department, which is known to edit out and censor evidence from video requests while still charging the full price, creating a deliberate and expensive trap to deny the truth. Public slander. The city allowed commentators like Daniel Kane to spread a false narrative, amplified by vicious personal attacks from figures like Big K Kevin, while others publicly agreed that the Corning PD is made up of little corrupt cowards. Exclusive telephone interview transcript. Bob Lexington, Skyscraper Television News. We now present excerpts from our exclusive, in-depth telephone interview with the citizen advocate. Q&A. Bob Lexington, reporter. The citizen advocate, summarized. Q1. On the assault, can you describe the malice when the employee yanked the door on your broken elbow? The assault was a malicious act that caused my eyes to well up with tears from the pain in my already broken elbow, following deliberate condescension. Q2. On police coercion, did you feel you had any choice but to comply when the officer illegally threatened arrest for obstruction? The overwhelming show of force and the illegal tactics made compliance mandatory to avoid a physical escalation. Q3. On Chief's intimidation, was Chief Spaulding's confrontation an effort to gather facts or a deliberate intimidation tactic? It was an orchestrated act of intimidation, proving the deep, personal involvement of the city's highest-ranking police family in my long-term persecution. Q4. On 7-month silence, What does the city's 7 months of silence tell you about their regard for justice? The silence is not inaction. It is the continuation of a zero-regard policy for citizen safety, extending a years-long campaign of official obstruction. Q5. On public perception, how does it feel to see the public narrative twisted against you by people who viciously attack your character? The public narrative is a malicious lie. People like Big K Kevin use hateful, personal attacks to avoid addressing the facts of the abuse. My reaction was always a contained response to years of being targeted by police and violent stalkers. Q6. On personal cost, what has this protracted fight cost you in terms of time, mental health, and family? The cost is total. Loss of employment, 2 divorces, and most tragically, my father cut ties due to the public lies. The trauma was compounded by the failure to be informed of my mother being on her deathbed in January 2020. Q7. On resilience, given this profound continuous trauma, the waking up screaming, the anxiety, how do you manage or distract yourself from the daily toll of this decade-long fight? I don't distract myself. I embrace the opposite of their cynicism. American patriotism and history. I recently completed my own New York City marathon, walking from the Battery up to the Martin Luther King Jr. Monument near Lincoln Center to celebrate my love of America, history, and culture. Q8. On accountability, what is the single most important action the city could take to satisfy you and demonstrate accountability? The immediate termination of the contracted employee who committed assault, and $100,000 in financial compensation for the pain and anguish inflicted by the system. Q9. How has this sustained layer of harassment affected your resolve to pursue justice? The harassment has only strengthened my resolve and confirmed that the system is corrupt and coordinated from top to bottom. Q10. Message to officials. What is the single, non-negotiable message you would deliver to City Manager Mark L. Reichman right now? My demand is non-negotiable. I demand a full, verified, and truthful answer about what happened to my dog. Furthermore, Mark L. Reichman must resign immediately. Q11. On the future. What is your final message to other citizens in Corning who might be facing intimidation? Never accept the blanket cynicism of those who look down their nose at you. You have a right to dignity, and you must stand up against this kind of official contempt. It's what Jamie and Amo Houghton would do. Bob Lexington, Skyscraper Television News. The record is complete. For Skyscraper Television News, I'm Bob Lexington.